Hi, I'm Janice Vinn. Welcome to Close Up with the Hollywood Reporter. It is my privilege today to be joined by Tori Amos, Pharrell, John Legend, Sting, Alicia Keys, and Justin Timberlake. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to start with a really general question. At what point in your life did you fall in love with music?
I remember falling in love with music when I was about 4 years old. I remember specifically the moment that it happened. It was somewhere between Cookie Monster when he sang this song that I had on my little tiny play
C is for
school.
cookie?
No, I left my cookie at the disco.
Oh. Well, now it all makes sense.
On the other side was It's Not Easy Being Green.
Oh, I love that song.
And so somewhere around that moment and kind of cross-sectioning with a teacher that I had that was really a big music lover and kind of encouraged us to do theater and songs, and I learned Somewhere Over the Rainbow. And that song crossed with Cookie Monster and It's Not Easy Being Green. Gave me my moment to kind of learn how to sing and see what it felt like. And it felt like this feeling I couldn't describe, and I still can't describe it now.
And did your mother understand that?
I do think she understood that. She moved to New York from Ohio, from Toledo, Ohio, where her mother told her that she had to take 1 year at the University of Toledo before she came to NYU. And she had that same type of dream of pursuing art. And so I think definitely we have that in common.
All this time I've known your mom, I didn't know she was from Ohio like me.
Yeah.
I love that.
Right?
It's good to know.
Toledo.
Good to know.
What about you, Pharrell? When did you fall in love with music?
I think my experience was the same, but I kind of saw it a little differently. I thought that everybody was in love with music. I was, I thought we all had those things where that one part in the Stevie Wonder song or the Earth, Wind and Fire song or the Steely Dan song, The Bridge, was the thing that made everybody, yeah, that part. I thought that everyone did that. And then then you get in junior high school and you start saying those kind of things, and then
Nobody knows what you're talking
they
about.
start giving you that look like,
Right.
you knew those pants was weird, but yeah, this is more than just your pants. But I thought everyone was had that kind of affinity for music. But then you get older and you realize sometimes people have affinity for other things, other artistic disciplines.
Right. All of you at this table have had huge hits. And I thought this was an amazing thing, Justin, that the director of Troll said, that there were two directors, that they said, you came on to the movie, and then you said, I'll write a song for it, and they were blown away. And then you said, and it'll be a hit.
That is not true.
You said that. You know you said
You
that.
definitely said it.
That is not true.
Okay, so this is the story.
That is the director trying to make the story sound like it was fucking worth something more than it was. Pardon my French.
Well, the happy ending is you did end up with a huge hit in Can't Stop the Feeling. And so all of you, so do you know, when you write a song, do you have any sense if it's going to be a hit or not?
I'm in love with all my songs right when I finish them. That's my problem, because I need some distance after having written them, because part of the joy of writing is that completion where you feel like, oh, this feels good. And I feel that every time I finish a song, so I can't trust that. So I'm a little hesitant to say this is a hit at first, because I like all of them at first.
Well, when you wrote All of Me, what did you think?
I didn't know at the beginning. I had to start playing it for other people and seeing the emotional reaction that people felt. My wife cried. I played it for other artists, and I played 5 songs for them, and then that was the one that everyone was like, oh, that one. It hit them in the gut. Industry people were crying when they heard it, and I was like, oh, okay.
Right.
This is different than just, oh, this is a good song.
Right.
I think with as it pertains to that specific song, I'd never written a song under that type of pretense.
Right.
Where it's specific to a scene in the movie, and the movie, for better or worse, is a musical.
Right.
We referenced True Colors, and we referenced Sound of Silence, Lionel Richie's Hello, September. So we kind of took a jukebox approach to a lot of the music. I think maybe it was mentioned, wouldn't it be nice if it was, if it felt like those songs? But yeah, I don't think you can ever predict what's a hit or what's not. it was the type of experience where there had to be like, almost like I kept referencing like Grease and Saturday Night Fever and Urban Cowboy. I don't know why I just picked 3 movies with John Travolta in them. Maybe that says more about me than anything. But
Now I know.
but yes. But those movies came out, and the soundtrack to those movies was sort of felt like it went hand in hand. The Bee Gees releasing all those songs before Saturday Night Fever was even a movie. So by the time you heard, you know, he's like, I'm gonna strut, you know, like by the time you heard that riff, there was so much recognition with it. It's funny you brought up disco. You know, the movie to me, when I was looking at all the materials they would send me for the scene, I felt like I was tripping, you know, like, or what it must feel like to be tripping, watching like like an ABBA video. And so, I don't know, it just felt like, the whole thing felt like disco. So I think that was probably the first way in, was just to try to make the song feel like modern but disco.
All those things I shouldn't do, but you dance, dance, dance. And ain't nobody leaving soon, so keep dancing. I can't stop the feeling. So just dance, dance, dance. So just dance, dance, dance. So just dance, dance, dance. So keep dancing.
How do you go about writing for a movie? This is very different from organically having a song come to you. I know some of you came about this differently. You watched an edited product before it was done, but some of you were brought in from the beginning.
For me, I've tried to say, okay, we're gonna do a song called such and such, and it's gonna be about such and such. It almost always falls flat for me. I find that it's better to chase a feeling in a direction and allow the automatic flow, the intuitive part of you take over versus the ego, which is going through the library of everything you've accumulated, everything you know, and that, well, this is gonna be it, and this is, it almost always fails. But if you allow your intuition to sort of go into that blank space and just listen to the things that come back, a really exciting title comes out that relates. It's about chasing a direction versus giving your spirit a directive. Works better for me. That's what happened when we did Happy. You know, I had like 8, 9 songs of what I was like, this is it, I know this is it, this is da-da-da-da-da, all ego. And it was like, no 9 times. And then finally was like, I was like, man, how do you make a song about like a guy that's so happy that nothing can bring him down? And then there it was.
Right.
You know, it was that. I find that like people who say this is gonna be a hit are just as unsuccessful as those who create hashtags.
Right.
You know, let's do a hashtag call for action. It never works.
Right.
But then when like some seemingly random person who isn't really random has something really means something to them, they say it, that becomes like the greatest hashtags.
Right.
So to me, it's the same thing, because at the end of the day, just like a hashtag and just like a hit, we have nothing to do with that.
Right.
We just ideate. People don't have to respond. It's not guaranteed that they will.
Right.
Yeah, I think everyone at this table would probably agree on some level that, you know, there is a level of blacking out when you write. It's like this tug of war, a great tug of war between the conscious and the unconscious brain for me. And like you said, a feeling.
And I think part of what is interesting about writing for film is that there is at least some direction, because when we write for our own albums, we could write literally about anything.
Anything.
Right.
And I think it is actually helpful to have a script, have, you know, something, a feeling that you're trying to capture and a visual that you're trying to match it with. It helps us because we could literally write about anything if we're writing for our own projects.
Right. Tori, I saw that when you were doing Audrey and Daisy, when you were doing the music for Audrey and Daisy, you gave this quote that was so interesting. It said, and maybe a lot of you can relate to this, where you said you disappeared, your day-to-day responsibilities had to go away while you wrote the songs.
That's so cool.
Well, this is a documentary, and it's a tough watch. It's really tough. Audrey isn't with us anymore. She killed herself. And Daisy is with us. She tried to commit suicide a few times, and they were both sexually assaulted.
high schoolers assaulting high schoolers.
Wow.
And this is within our middle schools as well. So the responsibility was, how do you hold the energy of Audrey's light flickering out, extinguished too soon, and yet acknowledge that Daisy, although the light was flickering, she was able to find it and has become Phoenix out of the ashes. And so that was what the song needed to hold.
A phoenix forms, her ashes rise, expose their hair, break Satan's spell,
I was asked to do a song for a film about Jim Foley, who was the American photojournalist who was murdered by ISIS very publicly. And I watched the film. A lot of footage of him, his colleagues who he was imprisoned with, his family. And at the end of the film, I said, I can't write a song about this. I cannot write a song. It's just too emotional. It's too intense. I think you've got the wrong guy. And then I went home with this running in my head, and I sat with my family around a table. It was actually Thanksgiving. And I thought, what would it be like to lose a member of my family, have a member of my family in captivity, or to be that member of captivity? What would be the thing that could unify us? And I thought, well, we'd leave a chair empty for that person. And as soon as I thought of the empty chair, that is a metaphor that is very specific to the situation, but it's also universal, and anybody can relate to it. So once I'd got that, I said, I've got it. Having refused to do it. I then said, I think I have a song. And the next day they had the empty chair.
I like the comment you said at the Sundance Film Festival. You said you were worried about it being mawkish.
Mocked.
Mawkish.
Yeah, I mean, it's just such a heavy subject.
Yes.
This guy was publicly executed. You want a song for that?
Right.
And I'm
Right.
I can't do that.
Well, why did they want a song for that?
I think it's such an intense movie. I mean, they don't show the execution.
Right.
Please don't be put off by that. But it's such an intense, emotional film that you need somebody to help you on with your coat as you're leaving the theater
Right.
to face life. And it's actually quite an uplifting, religious kind of feeling at the end of the movie. So that was my job, to get people out of the cinema who had been affected emotionally.
So don't despair of the empty chair, and somehow I'll be there. Some days I'm strong, some days I'm weak. On days when I'm broken, I can barely speak.
That is the thing about great art, and something that really can move you. I mean, I feel like it is kind of the conduit between worlds. Films and music, to me, that's what they do for you. They give you this emotional experience that you only experience when you're live and direct with people that you actually know, mostly any other time. It's the only other place that you can be taken to a place that you're an innocent bystander. You're listening to or you're like sitting watching and boom, it overtakes you. So I think that music is so relevant and so important to do that. With Queen of Katwe, the song that I wrote for Queen of Katwe was actually, I found this interesting because I've never been good at writing like topically. I've just never been good at it. I want to, in my mind. I'm like, wouldn't it be so interesting if I could just lay out a topic and then, just craft it perfectly to be. And to your point, every time I've tried, but it's like, that's a really nice song that you wrote. But it doesn't feel that thing that sends you over the edge, right? So in this particular case, it was interesting because I was already working on my album here. And for this album, the way that I did choose to, and the way that it came to me to create, was actually encouraged by this kind of fit of rage that I personally had. And I needed to write down all the things that I was absolutely so sick of, and I was just so tired of myself doing these things and being a part of these things. I was just like outraged with my own self and the world all simultaneously, and I wrote it down, which I encourage everyone to do. Because I'd never done that before. I never even felt free enough to even acknowledge that or even take the time to put that into words before. I'd never done that before. And so when I did, it created kind of this list almost. And all these lists were things that provoked me in this really powerful way. And that began this kind of place of writing that was new for me because it was specific to a topic, but it came from such a place that was personal that it was the first time I learned how to merge them together. So Queen of Katwe, the song Back to Life, was also kind of a part of that whole writing process because of the fact that I was doing both at the same time.
You could be the best in all of Uganda. Do you know what that would mean?
Now is the time, coach.
Really, this kind of concept of oppression and this concept of like mental slavery has been really, really a personal thing I've been exploring, you know what I mean? And so identifying with this young woman in this piece, which is about this young girl from Uganda who happens to stumble upon a teacher who's teaching the whole community how to play chess. And it's mostly boys, a few little girls, and she ends up being the champion.
Right.
And she's really only able to play amongst all other boys. So it's like the best boy player, and it's her. That's, there's only boys playing, so who else would it be? So this kind of concept of what happens when you're given a chance at life and how difficult that is for so many women around the world to really have the opportunity to be in that equal footing and that equal sitting. Here in America, anywhere, it's not much, it's different, varying degrees, but it's all the same kind of concept. So that's what this feeling of back to life, of having a chance at life, is what kind of inspired that.
So two of you here had huge Oscar contending movies a few years ago. You Happy and Glory from Selma. You came back pretty quickly with new songs. And Pharrell, I wanted to ask you in particular, you also produced Hidden Figures. How did this all come together?
My producer partner, Mimi Valdez, took a meeting with Donna Gelati, who had found the script, found the book, and retained the rights to the
And so just explain what the movie is about. Because it's pretty incredible.
So Hidden Figures is about 3 African-American women who...
Real story.
Real story. In the early 1960s were and played a huge integral part in all the math that it took for us as the U.S. to make it in the space race. Mm-hmm. We heard about the story.
John Glenn was the astronaut, right?
Yeah, John Glenn was the astronaut.
Right.
And there were a lot of problems. And at that time, the International Business Machines, which was IBM, the machines were failing, and they depended on like brain power, and it was these women. And this is a story that's been around this entire time. These women were victims of era and circumstance. Mm-hmm. So there was Katherine Johnston, there was Mary Jackson, and there was Dorothy Vaughan. And scientists, engineers, mathematicians, I mean, they knew it all. Mm-hmm. But again, in those days, not only was your contribution discounted if you're African American, but on top of that, you're a woman. When we look back in history, women's contribution to like any kind of advancement was always like discounted, dismissed, or like overlooked, erased, not acknowledged. And so this interested me because it's 3 African-American female protagonists. Science, technology, engineering, mathematics, space, NASA, which I've been obsessed with since I was a kid. And the idea that this happened in my hometown of Hampton Roads, Virginia, in the 1960s was like, okay, we have to do
not do that.
it. We have to do it. Like, you know, so it just blew our minds that like these women were just so instrumental, you know. I think that this movie is coming at a really good time, but I think the one good thing in it is that like it has raised gender bias. Like we can no longer deny that women are treated the way that they are. And I think that this film will be one of many instrumental tools to change not only America's mind, but the world's mind. You think about all these travesties that have happened. I mean, it's not girls going in and shooting up elementary schools.
Right.
You know, it's not girls blowing up federal buildings. You know, we talk about letting people in and bans on religious practices and all that. But you know what? What would the world be like if it was mostly ran by women? And as a man that loves women, I don't think there's nothing wrong with us having a shot at seeing what that looks and feels like. You know, and so that's what
a woman.
Hidden, right? That's what Hidden Figures is all about. So we're all blessed, man. And think about it, women have so much to carry every day, including the chauvinist people who grow up and forget that they were in somebody's stomach for 9 months.
Right.
They carry a lot.
I can definitely relate to that. You know, watching your wife become a mother and like being in awe of that.
Yeah. It's a beautiful
and
thing.
then realizing, you know, and you have that moment where you're like, whoa, my mom did a bunch, you know, like a lot.
Definitely.
Alicia, so you recently you've created a lot of news not wearing makeup in the traditional ways, and and this is a real statement.
You can't believe it. It's the craziest, weirdest.
So I'm bringing it up. This became a thing. What has surprised you about the reaction to that?
Well, most of it is actually, I think, a really good conversation, I think. And it's really an important conversation to have. You get to see firsthand the obsessive nature of very trivial things that the media just loves to pick up and make suddenly something out of, when it's really, there's so much more important things to be talking about. You know, one of the things that I always blow my mind, I'm like, how about we talk about the 65 million girls that don't have access to education? Like, that would be a much more powerful use of the time. This was just a personal thing that I was exploring and expressing, you know, as I'm growing as a woman. But I think the most important thing about it all is just that I think there's a really, you know, there's a lot that women carry, that to your point that you said. And there's a really ridiculously high, unrealistic standard of what beauty is. And it's heavy. It's heavy, it's hard. We're so like brainwashed, even as women, that we're like, it gets confusing. It gets really confusing as to what's inner beauty, what's outer beauty, what's the dance between the two? What is this conversation about, you know, beauty and the standards of it, and who is beautiful and who is not beautiful? It's like, it's really, really a tricky road. But the most important thing, obviously, is that, you know, that you honor yourself, and that you start to understand what is important to you as a person. Right. And again, that has nothing to do with makeup. Wear it, don't wear it, doesn't matter. Like, do what feels good to you as a woman, as a human being. Like, express yourself. Like, that's the most important thing. Express yourself, whatever way that looks. And don't judge each other so much. Whatever this person chooses, that's what they choose. Like, celebrate that person. Wow, look how great that is. Whatever this person chooses, that's what they choose. Great. That's beautiful too. It's all beautiful when you're allowed to express, you know, your truth.
I think I was afraid to go into this because I was like, well, there's probably gonna be more frivolity to it than like substance. But then I looked at the story and I'm like, wait, hold on. We have a female protagonist that has a belly, crazy hair. For young females to get to see that, I think that was something that I was like, whoa, you know, that's not frivolous at all. Like, that's so important. And what a cool way into, you know, getting them into the theater to like, I want to be like Princess Poppy, not Barbie.
Yes.
Right. John, I want to ask you about La La Land, which is...
Congrats, by the way.
I mean,
you.
amazing. So, Damien Chazelle, he said that you improvised your lines when you were speaking to Ryan Gosling's character. So can I just read what you said?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so he's a jazz purist, and you are a successful touring musician. Okay, as you are. And
I'm a sellout.
and so
I had to play that in the Coen movie. It's actually really fun.
well, it's interesting because I want to hear about how you write those songs to be the sellout,
Yeah.
right? That are still really good songs. So, and then
Mr. Kennedy.
you say to Ryan Gosling's character Sebastian, "Jazz is dying because of people like you. You're so obsessed with Kenny Clark and Thelonious Monk. Those guys were revolutionaries. How are you going to be a revolutionary if you're such a traditionalist?" So, what is your personal experience with that?
Well, I think the character, was more extreme than I would have been about it because I really appreciate traditional jazz too, and I think there's really a lot of beauty in it. And I don't think every musician's goal should be to be on the top of the Hot 100. I think there's ways to be happy and successful playing whatever music you want to play. So if I were Ryan, my response to my character would have been, but I love playing this. Yeah, but I love playing this music. It makes me happy, and I'll find an audience because I'm going to be really great at doing it my way. And so I don't actually agree with my character's kind of scolding of him because everybody's goal is not the same in what we do, and everybody's truth is not the same. So I think it's fine to be us and be successful and try to be on the charts or whatever you're trying to do. But I think there's a lot of beauty in just making the best music that you want to make that's honest and true.
So was that song you writing it, or was it your character writing it?
It was definitely me writing for my character. We were trying for that character to have a particular kind of success. And what Damien wanted was that you didn't think, oh, that song sucks, he's a sellout. You wanted to think, oh, this is a viable alternative. This is a path to success. And it's pretty good. It's just not what Ryan's character was looking for in his music. And so we wanted to write something that had some jazz inflections, that had some influence from jazz, but was clearly more contemporary and more pop. And so we tried to walk that line of trying to accomplish that, but also not writing a corny, stupid song. So hopefully we accomplished it.
Light up the night. We can start a fire. Come on, let it burn, baby. We can start a fire. Let the table serve, baby. We can start a fire. I just know I feel so good. Don't you know I feel so good? I just know I feel so good tonight.
So, Sting, what are you trying to do with your song? This is a topic, a movie that is not going to reach the same number of people who see Star Wars. It's a difficult topic. So what are you trying to do?
Well, I'd like to really talk about what I think John touched on there about success versus obscurity in musicians. We have to remember that music for all of us is a spiritual path. Whether you are top of the charts or whether you're just playing in a little club to 3 or 4 people, it's the same search and the same path. So I'm glad you said that because I feel strongly that it is our way of reaching whatever is out there, the unknowable, the ineffable. What am I trying to do with my songs? Exactly that. I'm trying to figure it all out.
So
Reach the unknowable.
does all of you have had huge commercial success? Does it give you the ability to do that?
Oh, it can go
That's
both
a real
ways.
question. I would like to hear some
It can go
real
both ways.
answers about that.
I think it goes both ways because
I would.
once you've had a certain amount of success, then the expectations around you are different. If you don't have a hit the next time, then some people around in your world may be disappointed. But I've always felt free in the studio.
Man, get out of my brain, bro.
Yeah, I've always felt
I see
so
all of that
free.
as freedom.
Yeah, I've always, when I go in the room, I really just think, man, how do I make the most beautiful thing I can make? How do I make the thing I could be most proud of? How do I make a song that makes me feel something inside and makes me proud to be able to sing it? I feel that every time I go in there, and I know that the label wants a certain thing, but I can't let it infect my mind.
Right.
I have to just go in there and do what feels right. And if I do that, I feel like I'll find a way to sell it. We'll sell it. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But as long as I'm in love with it and feel free in that room, then it's going to come out fine.
I mean, essentially, you have to sell it to yourself,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think that's probably the battle we all go through because whether you like it or not, you're going to analyze as you're doing it, after you've done, like you said, I need a minute to sit with it because felt great in the moment, but maybe I come back to it tomorrow and I'm like, well, let me just tinker with this, or let me just, and so yeah, I mean, what is it, the quote, money can't buy you happiness, but it pays for the pursuit. which is a great comedic, you know, like a comical way of looking at it. But at the end of the day, like, it really can't buy it for you. You know, you have to access that on your own. And I mean,
I think all of us here at this table, you know, a popular taste has coincided largely with our choices in music. But I think I'm older than everybody else here. Occasionally, I've just gone off. Allegedly.
I think you're also gonna live longer than the rest of us here.
But I've taken some sabbaticals. You know, I've searched, you know, made albums of 16th century lute songs. Like, are you crazy? Yes, I am crazy, but I'm just curious. I'm curious about it. So occasionally you go off the path, but you come back.
Maybe that's what it buys you, is that curiosity, to continue to be curious.
But there are people that aren't successful that are going off and doing that too.
Right.
And they may find beauty and happiness through that too. So I think you don't have to be us to go off and explore musically.
Sebastian in the movie does that,
absolutely.
right? In the end. Tori, you have had such an amazing career, and as a songwriter, as a female who really broke onto the scene and made a huge splash. Can you talk about, were there moments when people were trying to guide you to not be genuine to yourself, to become a bigger pop star, to be something different than who you felt authentically you were?
Little Earthquakes was rejected when I turned it in.
That album changed my life, man. So
and what
fucking good.
So talk about that.
I embarrassed myself before the camera started rolling and started singing to Tori. I instantly regretted it. I was like, what are you doing, Justin? And I just sang something to her before the cameras from Little Earthquakes.
They wanted to take all the pianos off and replace it with guitars.
What?
Oh, yes. And this was recommended by someone, it's not important to mention names, but because that isn't what I'm trying to say. I'm not shopping somebody. It's because I respected his work. He was a great arranger, and he couldn't hear it because he was part of the record industry chasing it. Trying to look for something that had already happened. Tracy Chapman had already happened. I was across town making Why Can't Tori Read and in too tight a bustier, and had my hair up to here with hairspray. And because I had lost my way, I had lost the muses. I stopped listening because I started listening to the boys club that was running the industry at the time. And some of them are still in it. And some of them I get along with very well and can have a glass of champagne and talk to them. But I looked at Doug Morris, who I love, and I said, you are not touching these pianos. Sell me. You sell me to Gary Gersh. And he looked at me and goes, I said, why not? You guys have been selling us for thousands of years. Sell me to Gary, because you'll get your money back, because he knows what to do.
Wow.
Tori, I'm not selling you. If Gary wants you, I want you.
That's a really good Doug Morris. That's a really good Doug Morris.
So what happened?
But that just deserves a nice pregnant pause. You guys have been selling us for thousands of years. That's like so, wow. Okay.
So
Wow.
So how did you get your way?
He said, I'm keeping you. Who do you want to produce it? And I said, okay, so you're bringing in another man again.
Okay.
Is that what you're doing? And he looked at me, he goes, what, you gonna produce? I said, and why not?
Another man again? Or
Another mannequin. That's what I heard too. Oh, you know what? I was gonna hold on to that because I was like, let me just access that when I need it, when I'm writing another song, but you just ruined it. So no.
I won't charge you for it.
Another mannequin.
I won't come
another
after you.
mannequin.
No,
I
we'll
literally
call you
had
in
to
for
see.
it.
That's why they
That
set us
was
all the way
amazing.
across the table from each other
funny.
because they knew what would happen if I'd be sitting over there. They sent a mannequin.
So we were all young and not where you are today at one point. What is your advice to young people? How do you stay true to your conviction when every voice, when Doug Morris is telling you you're wrong? What do you do?
Shout out to Doug Morris.
You know what? That's a very good question, and I think all of us have gotten invaluable advice, and we look back and we go, "Man, if I would have just listened," But you know what? You are who you are, and you have your own GPS, and the ether is always going to read very differently to you than it will anybody else, because all of our experiences are unique to us. And so we can try and give them advice, but I'd say the best advice is to, like she said, stay loyal to the muses. That's where the term musician comes from. One who listens to the muses, is channeled into the muses.
And to be fair, do you know, when I went off with Eric Ross to make more songs, fair enough, I discovered more songs that became precious things, that became on the record, and Doug got it. Then he got it. And to be fair to Doug, he said to me, "Tori, once I got it, I got it. You got to give it up to me." I said, "That's fair enough." Fair enough.
And I think we have to have a bit of humility too, because I think a lot of times we'll tell people, just be yourself.
Right.
What is yourself though? Like, because you're discovering things as you go. And part of who yourself is now may not be yourself in 5 years. And part of who yourself is determined by what you listen to and by who you listen to, what kind of advice you take in, who you spend time with, who you write with, who you collaborate with. And so I don't want kids to go in there thinking, I exist as who I'm supposed to be right now and I'm great.
Yeah.
Right.
I want them to think, I may have a spark, I may have something special, but maybe it does need some cultivation. Maybe it does need some advice. Maybe it does need some help. Maybe it needs me to be humble, but also confident in the fact that I'm gonna get there and I need to work hard to get there.
Yeah, I mean, the ether that is around you is essentially your university. You're learning the entire time. It's definitely true.
I would say the thing that I think I've been called to recognizing is just be aware of the illusions, because there's a lot of illusions that are shown to us and given to us just as human beings. And we're not even talking about writing songs or being an artist or not being an artist. Like, as human beings, there's these illusions. There are things that are true, and there are things that are untrue, and there are things that are real, and there are things that are unreal. And I think in this world, we tend to live in a room full of illusions, of things that really aren't deepening you as a human being. It's like very superficial. It's very like on the surface layer. It's very shallow. It's very, just what you can see, as opposed to encouraging us to go deeper into our inner, what's inside of you. To your point, how do we know who we are? How will we ever know who we are if we never are able to go deeper inside of ourselves and say, like, that doesn't feel good. Why doesn't that feel good? That does feel good. Why does that? You know what I mean? Because we have so many things that we learn, to your point, from other people. And then we call that our truth. Well, that's how I feel because someone told me they felt like that. And damn, which one is my truth? So I think that's another thing that I've been receiving a lot more, and wanting to just be more in touch with that ping, that like zing, that zing thing. You know it when you feel it, and you know when you don't feel it. You know when it's not that feeling, and you know when it is that feeling. And what does that mean, and where does it come from? And actually taking the time to kind of look into that a little bit, because we have so many complexities in our lives, and we're all different. So it's all different for each one of us. But that's something just to be aware of.
So speaking of the zing thing, so of all the songs you have all done, which ones surprised you as the one that broke out? Sting, can we start with you?
Having a hit is one thing. Not having a hit doesn't matter to me, really. The biggest compliment I receive as a songwriter is when someone comes to me and says, I fell in love to one of your songs. Or we played your song at our wedding, or when we brought our first kid home, your song was on the radio. We buried Uncle Charlie to one of your songs. And that means more than nominations, Grammys, BMI, whatever. But basically, by accident, creating the soundtrack for people's emotional lives. That's a huge privilege.
Yeah.
We did it by accident.
Yeah.
None of us set out to do that.
Right.
We were there for the glory, you know,
Right.
in the spotlight. But by accident, you have this amazing body of work that people relate to emotionally. That's incredible.
Like you said earlier at the beginning, film and music, it's like we go to the theater and it's like, oh man, you know, whatever, stressful week, whatever, I just want to go see a movie and just escape. And then the first thing you do is go, oh, that's you. And that's me. So you're actually looking to connect. You're using the art to connect. And like you said, like we could all at this table go, oh man, the summer of whatever, and we would come up with the song that access those memories because we connect, we used it to connect. So regardless of if it's a dance record or if it's a task like you had to write something about someone real who's not with us anymore, you know, we all end up, you know, or just the idea of being happy, like we all use it to connect. And it's so funny, like you said, that maybe that's our own illusion, that we think we're using it for escapism, but we're actually using it to relate.
So John, you had an incredibly memorable moment at the Oscars. You know, we'd gone through this whole generation where you aren't supposed to get up on stage and make a political statement. And you got up and you said, Nina Simone said it's an artist's duty to reflect the times in which we live. And you talked about the incarceration of Black men. And cut to the audience, no one's rolling their eyes, people are crying. What was behind that and what kind of reaction did you get?
That was amazing, by the way.
Thank you.
I think everybody at home was crying. Yeah.
My sense was that
Part where I thought John could actually hear me. I was listening, yes, John. He can't hear me right now while I'm yelling at the TV.
Well, it would have been different if it was for a different song or a different movie. I wouldn't have gone up and made that same statement if it wasn't for the fact that my song was written for a film that represented an important movement in American history. We're writing a song for Selma, Dr. King, and all these people who went on Edmund Pettus Bridge and risked their lives. Some of them actually died. Some of them were beaten. And all of them did that for the right for all of us to be more free. And then we live in a country that is failing to make us more free because we're locking up so many people. And so I could not walk up there and receive an award and just thank my manager and my wife and my producer and the filmmaker and this and that and do all the traditional things that people do. I had to honor the movement that the song and the film represented. And I had to honor the movement that was in the streets at that moment because the people were in the streets at that moment protesting Ferguson and all those other police shootings in our communities. And I was not gonna get up there and not say something about it.
So Pharrell, how do you express your activism? I know you have, I love the song Runnin' in the movie when there's this incredible scene where Taraji Henson's character cannot get to the bathroom because it's a segregated bathroom. And so she is constantly late at work and her boss has no idea this is going on. But then you close out the movie with I See a Victory. So what do you want people to feel? Tell me how that song came about.
I See a Victory.
Yes.
It parallels that particular moment, what Catherine was going through and what Dorothy was going through and what Mary was going through with what women are going through right now. Like there's just like this incredible gender bias. And it's like, if you're a man and you grew up in this nation and you're not necessarily self-aware, you wouldn't notice the things that women deal with every day. But for whatever reason, man, women, as they say in my community, they keep on keeping on. Like they like keep going. And it's just so inspiring. And I feel like we should take heed and like, and listen to the people who have the ability to be in a super adverse matrix, you know, where the physics, because physics for women are different in this nation than it is for men, still to this day. Like we live in a man's matrix, but that's going to change. But the people who are able to see through those trials and tribulations to see a better day based on the things that they're doing and the same things that the other enlightened people are doing, those are the people you want to listen. You know, when LeBron was down and we thought, man, he might really lose this game, like he saw something. He saw a victory. And I just think it's important to sort of highlight that notion of a person who can feel encouraged in a really difficult situation. It's to give hope to other people who might not have that kind of vision, you know. Let them know that encouragement and hope and optimism can not only survive, but it can lead you through the fog of pessimism.
Well, what's the greatest thing a fan has ever said to any of you? I'm sure some of them have been in pessimistic times.
And I'll get right out of it is what Sting said earlier, when someone walks up to you and tells you something about your song. And
got me through a hard time.
Got me through high school, or like, you know.
Saved my marriage. Ordinary people, I get a lot of that.
Yeah.
With ordinary people, that it saved their marriage. They listened to the song and thought about what it means to like struggle in a relationship, have ups and downs, and decide that we're gonna work on this and get through it. And I was like, how is that even possible? Like, how can this song mean that much? But it does to mean that to some people.
Does. It's a great song.
And that's what we're able to do as songwriters, and it's a beautiful gift.
I feel like when I've listened to that song, I've accessed that feeling as well. You know, like, wow, you know, like.
It's like it's almost just compassion. It's like the feeling of compassion.
Yeah, empathy.
You know, it's evident to me, all the talent around this table, that the skills and the sensitivity it takes to be a songwriter are not divorced from the skill and the sensitivity it takes to be a citizen. You know, and we can use those skills equally. You can hear it. You know, people are able to very eloquently and succinctly describe a feeling that is important to everybody. So we are doing a service, or we hope to be doing a service, and we can.
Right.
And we collaborate with the people that come to our shows. Sometimes they don't even know it. They're talking about a song. They're telling me about their story. And then all of a sudden, the muses are sprinkling and a new song is starting. And they have no idea that they're co-creating. They have no idea. And that's the collaboration and the love affair that we have with them.
Well, you wrote a song today, a mannequin song. We had no part of it. We just watched it happen.
I want to talk about fame and stardom for a second. Now, you've been famous a very long time. A lot of you have been famous here for a long time. But I think for John and Pharrell, you two were always the really cool artists. And then when you had these enormous hit songs, you became household names. Is that... I think you hear this term used a lot, and maybe it's offensive to some people at this table, like to be a crossover artist. What does that mean? You have to cross over to get men. You have to cross over to get a white audience. You have to cross over to get a black audience. Is that a necessary part of becoming a so-called big star, or is that the wrong way that people in the industry look at it?
I think it's.
I hate the term.
But also, I don't think we see the world that way.
Right.
I mean,
But
it's an imaginary perception of things belong in silos. And I think at the end of the day, the minute that you get to the moon, you recognize, oh, we're kind of all on the same planet. We are human beings. I mean, I don't think there's no Neanderthals or Cro-Magnons walking around. Like, you know, we're human beings. Some of us are lighter than others. Some of us are darker than others, taller, smaller, bigger, skinnier, you know, different sexual orientations. Sure, there's variations, but we're humans until somebody rolls around with a third arm, you know. That's when you start to get into...
That'll be redefine humanity, but yeah, I just think Pharrell and I talk a lot about the idea, or, you know, synesthesia. You know, I think the people at this table, you know, you said a white audience or a black audience. I think everybody at this table could point out so many different colors between those two neutral colors, you know? And I find it ironic that they're described as neutral colors. Yeah. If something's red, it can be, you know, off the top of your head, 8 different types of red, you know? And like Pharrell said, there's just so many varying degrees, and I think, for me at least, the older I sort of get, I just think I see more of that, and the specificity of that makes me not generalize. I think the people at this table would probably not generalize things.
Yeah, and I don't like to think of it. I'm not one of those people that believes that people should be colorblind or not aware of race or not even aware of racism, because racism is real and people are experiencing it every day. And there are differences that they may not be just differences, but there are differences among the races in how they're treated and how they experience America and how they experience the rest of the world. So I don't want to minimize those differences, but part of the power of art and music is that we're able to transcend those boundaries. We go and play everywhere in the world. We play in China, we play in Europe, we play in South Africa, we play all over the world. And when we play in America, my audiences are from everywhere, and they always have been. All of Me was my first song that really got a lot of radio play on pop radio.
Yeah.
So in that sense, that's kind of the music definition of crossover. But my audiences have always been diverse, and music has always been universal. And so I feel like we, as artists, we can be aware of what's happening racially, but for us, music, love, the things we talk about are universal.
100%. And thank God, you know, the Untitledists who love to put things in like really specific silos. You know, thank God there's no blue-eyed chart or no Afro chart. Like, thank God.
There would be.
Or tall chart.
Easy.
You know, gay chart. Like, thank God there's not that. There's just, you know, music is music, and yeah, there's some subtle descriptions, but I'm Black and so proud of being Black, and I love my culture, but do not put me or my culture in a box. Because we've been proven to do a lot of things.
Black folks have been making all kinds of music. There's no Black music that can be so narrowly defined. Like, let's just go out and create and make beautiful, universal music, and it'll reach the people.
Yeah.
Okay, so one final question. What is your favorite movie soundtrack of all time? Tori, we'll start with you.
Oh, man.
Hold on. I wasn't prepared.
Yeah.
Okay, if someone
I
wants
love
to
that
jump
this
in.
is the one that's so perplexed us.
You know,
like, don't feel comfortable
I'm gonna
with.
I'm gonna make a statement. I don't know that it's the best, but I'm gonna talk about what it meant to me at that moment. Love Jones soundtrack really meant a lot to me in that moment because I was at a certain age where I think I was in college or I was just about to graduate. I was kind of thinking about what my musical identity was going to be, and that just really spoke to me at that moment, and it just felt like this is the vibe that I want to live in right now, and that was a really good vibe for me.
That's nice. That's a good one.
Yeah.
I hate being locked into one.
Okay,
It's not really fair.
some of them.
But I'm gonna have to go with Purple Rain.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Cause that, I mean,
Life-changing.
the guy, I mean, this dude,
It's hard to even pick.
Darling Nikki is on that, man. Like, Darling Nikki.
I'm certain that Purple Rain is better than the Love Jones soundtrack. Like, I know because I've listened to both of them, but I'm just talking about where I was in my life.
No, that was an amazing one.
Yeah.
No, that was amazing.
Yeah.
I'm just.
I feel like the only genre that we could actually say could be classified is Prince. Because, like, he just owns his own...
He has his own category.
You know what I mean? Like, we're like, you know, I don't know what Blue-Eyed Soul is, man. Stop talking to me about... Yes, I have blue eyes. I don't, like, who's to say that Chris Martin is not as soulful? He's making music from his soul. I don't know what you mean. No. But Prince...
Right.
He sign of the times, you know, like that was a trippy experience to watch too. Like he's got like soundtracks that are tough to even pick from in his own catalog.
Right.
Yeah.
So is that yours?
I don't know that it counts as a soundtrack, but because I was so young when I saw it and had to go back and see it at a drive-in theater, was the score to E.T.
Oh, that's a good one.
You know, I mean, obviously John Williams is like, I mean, you know, try picking your favorite John Williams score. Like he should have his own, you know, but that one for me, I don't know. Give me a second to think about it.
That's a good one.
But I don't know, for some reason, I guess because I just love that movie so much.
That's a good one.
Do you know when I was losing my way in LA in the 80s, I went to see Amadeus 11 times.
Wow.
Wow.
Tears, you know, I couldn't stop. And I realized the best thing that ever happened to me was I got kicked out of the conservatory when I was 11.
Yeah.
But my father was devastated. He was devastated. And so for him, the dream was over because I was a failed concert pianist, dream gone. And so there was a death happening for me. Something was dying. And the muses were saying to me, lift up your heart, little one.
Right.
You know, you have to stay open, stay listening. Musicians, the most important thing we have to do is listen. Zip it and listen.
Sting?
I would say Hard Day's Night.
Wow.
One, they were British, the Beatles.
Right.
Were they?
They were. They came from a northern industrial town like I did. And that sort of visceral excitement of a band at the beginning of their life totally enraptured me. And I thought, well, if they can do it, why not me? So that film was very, and the music particularly.
And can you draw a line from that to you becoming
Absolutely.
Sting?
No, it gave a whole generation of young Englishmen the permission to dream that dream. And so a lot of us tried it.
Right.
And some of us made it.
Right.
There's so many that are like, and pop up in my head, you know, like, and for, all for different reasons, you know. We use Sound of Silence in Trolls, like we picked that song for for comedic purposes, right? And also too, it was like, oh yeah, like the parents will laugh at this and the kids won't get it at first.
Right.
And I actually had this funny, weird, existential, like my son is gonna see The Graduate one day and go, oh, that's my dad's. Put that, that's my dad.
That was great too, though, The Graduate.
You know, there's so many.
I wonder whether the brain actually accesses musical memory easier than it accesses imagery.
I think it does.
Probably.
Well,
One of the songs that I never will forget and I always will associate with a film is that The Blower's Daughter and Closer. That song will always come to my mind, and I'll always think about the whole Natalie Portman and Clive Owen and everything about that, but the song is what triggers that.
Exactly.
Right,
And for me, I would say it was, again, it's super hard, but I would say Lady Sings the Blues.
Wow.
Yeah. I think that was just such an epic moment of like just, an incredible recounting of an incredible life, but in such a way that was just really unforgettable. And that music was so like part of it. You already knew, you were discovering, I was discovering that music at the time. And then it was an older film that was before my time. And then the love I have even for the era of the Motown era, but that was even beyond that. So it was like very layered, I think, that experience of why that stood out to me as one of the most beautiful soundtracks.
okay. And so, I'm actually lied. I'll do one more question. One word, the key to longevity in the music business.
Curiosity.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Love.
Fearlessness.
Humor.
Yes. Yes.
That's good.
Oh.
That's good.
All right. Well, thank you, Tori, Pharrell, John, Sting, Alicia, Justin, for joining us for Close Up with the Hollywood Reporter. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Janice.
Thank you, that was fun.
Hi.
Hi.
What's going on? I'm Alicia Keys. I'm Taraji P. Henson.
John Favreau.
Jeff Bridges here.
Matt Damon.
Naomi Harris.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you so much for watching.
Thanks for watching.
For more videos, be sure to subscribe.
I guess subscribe online for more videos if you want more of that stuff.
I don't work for the Hollywood Reporter. They paid me to say that, though.